3 months making you believe she was yours and then coldly, "I'm not ready." That's not confusion. That's control. Most men freeze at that moment. They panic. They start digging into her past. Was it her ex? Was it childhood trauma? Did her parents screw her up? They turn into detectives of dysfunction. And worse, they turn into therapists who never get paid. But here's the truth nobody wants to say. Understanding her wounds won't make her love you. It won't make her commit. It only makes you better at tolerating what no man should tolerate. Men think empathy is the cure. The truth. Empathy is the leash. Every hour spent decoding her chaos is an hour stolen from your own life. You call it patience. You call it compassion. But it's neither. It's self-destruction dressed as virtue. Because this game isn't about love. It's about control. And every time you play therapist, you hand over your power. So why do men stay stuck in this trap for years? And why do they mistake endless understanding for progress? That's where the real scam begins. This is where the spiral begins. She says, "I'm not ready," and instead of walking away, he doubles down. He tells himself that if he just understands her better, he can fix it. He digs into her childhood. He dissects her past relationships. He studies her family like a case file. Every story becomes another clue in his private investigation. But while he's busy analyzing the past, his present is being drained. Most men call this growth. They think peeling back her layers means progress. They congratulate themselves for being patient, empathetic, emotionally intelligent. But what nobody tells them is that this isn't growth at all. It's paralysis with a mask on. It feels like movement, but it's just sophisticated procrastination. He's not moving forward. He's sinking deeper into her dysfunction, waiting for a breakthrough that never comes. And here's the cruel truth. Understanding doesn't cure anything. It only conditions him to tolerate it longer. The more he knows about why she can't love him, the less he demands that she actually does. Every insight becomes another knot on the leash. He becomes a prisoner of his own compassion, mistaking endurance for progress. Society praises this behavior. Men are told that leaving makes them cruel, that patience makes them noble. So they wear their suffering like a badge of honor. They brag about how much dysfunction they can endure, as if tolerance is the same as love. But it's not love. It's self-erasure, not growth, but decay. Not compassion, but compliance. And that's why so many men wake up years later asking the same bitter question. How did I waste my prime years on someone who was never going to change? Because they confused understanding with transformation. They thought empathy could replace standards. And by the time they realize the truth, they're already drained of the one resource they can never get back: time. But if endless empathy is really disguised self-destruction, why do men keep repeating the same mistake? The answer lies in a deadly misconception about how problems get solved. And it's the next trap that locks them in, even deeper. Men fall into this cycle because they borrow the wrong playbook. They treat relationships like medicine. In medicine, finding the cause often leads to the cure. A doctor tracks the virus, studies the tumor, isolates the infection, and then prescribes the treatment. It works for the body. But the moment men apply that same model to human behavior, it collapses. They think if they can just trace her pain back to childhood, the healing will begin. If they can connect her trust issues to her father, her volatility to her ex, her detachment to some trauma, then somehow love will finish the job. They imagine that once the why is uncovered, The how will magically take care of itself. But this is fantasy. Human patterns don't vanish with insight. They remain until there is choice, effort, and accountability. And if those are missing, nothing changes. What nobody tells men is that understanding without action is useless. You can map her trauma like a forensic team, but if she has no desire to change, your knowledge is just wasted ink. Worse, by taking this role, you destroy the foundation of the relationship itself. You're not her partner anymore. You've demoted yourself to her counselor. And she quickly learns that she never has to fix anything, because you'll keep carrying the weight for her. Not healing, but stalling. Not resolution, but endless analysis. That's the trap of the medical model. It convinces men they're doing noble work, when all they're really doing is feeding a system designed to keep them stuck. Every hour spent excavating the past is another hour stolen from the present. And here's the bitter irony. The more men chase the why, the blinder they become to the only question that matters. It's not why she behaves this way. It's whether she will ever choose to behave differently. That single shift in focus changes everything. And it leads straight into the next illusion, where men stop being partners and start playing saviors. When the medical model fails, another illusion takes over. Men stop thinking like doctors and start thinking like saviors. They convince themselves they are the chosen one, the man who will finally heal her wounds, rebuild her trust, and unlock her true potential. What began as attraction has now turned into a rescue mission. And this is where the trap becomes almost impossible to escape. The savior complex flatters the ego. It makes a man feel noble, important, even heroic. He's not just dating her, he's building her future. He's not tolerating dysfunction, he's guiding her growth. He reframes suffering as sacrifice, convincing himself that his pain is proof of strength. But the reality is harsher. He isn't saving her. He's erasing himself. Most men think patience equals love. But when patience is applied to dysfunction, it's not love, it's complicity. Every time he forgives another betrayal, excuses another breakdown, or tolerates another violation, he tells himself he's helping her heal. In truth, he's teaching her she never has to change. And here's the cruel twist. Women who have no intention of improving are drawn to men with this savior instinct. They know how to play the role. They reveal just enough vulnerability to keep him hooked, just enough progress to buy time, but never enough change to build a real relationship. It's not healing. It's manipulation, wrapped in fragility. Ever asked yourself if she's the one healing? Why are you the one exhausted? That's the paradox men refuse to confront. The stronger they play the savior, the weaker they become. The more they give, the less they're respected. Not partnership, but therapy. Not intimacy, but dependence. That's the true cost of the savior complex. A man sacrifices years chasing potential while ignoring reality. He clings to the fantasy of who she might become, blind to who she really is. And by the time he wakes up, the damage is done. Time, his most valuable asset, is already gone. So, if the savior role only leads to destruction, what's the alternative? The answer flips the entire dating script upside down, and it begins with seeing relationships the way businesses see hiring. If the savior role destroys men, the antidote is brutally simple. Stop acting like a therapist and start acting like an employer. Because dating isn't therapy, it's hiring. And the woman you let into your life is applying for the most important role there, is your partner. Think about it. No serious company spends months trying to understand why a candidate shows up unprepared, why they lack basic skills, or why their resume is a disaster. No hiring manager says, "Let's explore your childhood to see why you failed the test." They make one calculation. Can this person deliver what the job requires today? If the answer is no, the interview ends. Next candidate. No guilt, no drama, no wasted time. Yet men abandon this logic when it comes to dating. They confuse potential with compatibility. They hire out of pity. They keep women who are unqualified for the role of partner, then waste years trying to train them into competence. They think it's compassion, but it's self-sabotage. Just like a company would collapse if it kept hiring out of sympathy, a man's life collapses when he commits out of desperation. Not standards, but excuses. Not selectivity, but settling. That's the hidden engine of the dating scam. Men are told it's cruel to filter, harsh to reject, cold to walk away. But what nobody tells them is that selectivity isn't cruelty, it's survival. His time and his energy are the most valuable resources he has. Wasting them on an unqualified partner is the fastest way to bankrupt his future. And here's the flip that society doesn't want men to see. Her struggles may not be her fault, but they're not his responsibility to fix. He can acknowledge her pain without hiring her for the role. Because love is not charity. A relationship is not a rehab center. It is a contract of mutual value. So why do men keep ignoring this obvious logic? Why do they keep investing in partners who drain them? The answer lies in the next illusion. One that convinces men that waiting long enough will finally create the change they're desperate for. When men fail to filter at the start, the next trap swallows them whole. It's the belief that change just needs more time. They convince themselves, "She's working on it. Healing takes patience. I just need to wait." And so they wait. Weeks turn into months. Months bleed into years. But the promise of progress never arrives. This is the timing trap, the illusion that endurance equals love. Men wear their suffering like proof of loyalty. But loyalty to dysfunction isn't virtue. It's blindness. Because adults are responsible for their own growth. If she hasn't resolved patterns that have haunted her for 10 years, why would she suddenly fix them for you? Not healing, but hiding. Not progress, but excuses. That's what men are really tolerating. Women cling to victim narratives because brokenness has benefits. It buys them sympathy, lowered expectations, and a free pass for behavior no one else would accept. Dysfunction becomes a shield. And every extra day he waits only teaches her that her wounds protect her better than accountability ever will. The cruel irony is that men rewrite their exhaustion as virtue. They call it patience. They call it loyalty. But what it really is wasted time disguised as devotion. By refusing to set boundaries around change, they trade away years of their prime to sit in a waiting room that never opens its doors. And when they finally wake up, the pain is not just her dysfunction. It's the opportunity cost. The birthdays missed. The years burned. The futures lost chasing potential that never became reality. Time is the one currency a man never gets back. And the timing trap drains it faster than anything else. So the real question isn't how long she needs to heal. The real question is why men keep handing over their most valuable years to women who never planned to change at all. The answer points to a brutal truth about investment, and it reveals why most men stay trapped even when they know better. The only way to escape the timing trap is to protect your investment before it begins. Early dating should never be about blind bonding. It should be about testing. Yet most men rush in, handing over emotional loyalty before they've seen who she really is. That premature attachment is why they cling to women who will never change. Investment protection means treating emotions like capital. You wouldn't pour money into a startup without checking the numbers. You wouldn't hire an employee without testing their skills. So why throw your heart at someone before you've seen how she handles conflict? Boundaries or pressure, the wise man holds back. He watches patterns. He sets standards and waits for her response. Compatibility isn't revealed in her excuses. It's revealed in her behavior. Most men think keeping distance is cold. The truth is the opposite. Distance is discipline. It stops you from repainting red flags into potential. It keeps you from inventing excuses to explain why she keeps failing your standards. Because once you're locked in emotionally, you'll bend reality just to stay. That isn't love, it's addiction wearing the mask of loyalty. And here's the brutal part. Women can sense when a man has already overinvested. They know he's hooked. They exploit it. They feed him just enough drama, just enough tears, just enough progress to keep him chasing. But if you hold back, if you refuse to give full commitment until she proves her value, the game flips. She has to qualify for you, not the other way around. Not bonding, but vetting. Not rescuing, but filtering. That's the mindset that keeps men from wasting their prime years. The moment you adopt it, you stop being prey and start being the selector. But what exactly should men be filtering for? How do you know when her problems are obstacles, or when they're simply who she really is? That's the next truth most men are too afraid to face. Once you understand investment protection, the next step is brutal clarity. Repeated behavior is not a glitch, it's the code. Yet men waste years believing dysfunction is just a phase, something temporary that will fade once the right man shows up. But reality doesn't work that way. Patterns don't reveal her past, they reveal her present capacity. If she's always unreliable, that's not circumstance. That's who she is. If she explodes at small conflicts, that's not trauma talking. That's her current level of regulation. If she dodges accountability, manipulates, or shuts down, those aren't just scars left by her history. They are the weapons she actively chooses to live with. Men want to frame these flaws as obstacles that can be overcome with enough patience and love. But they're not obstacles. They're identity. Not potential, but reality. Not wounds, but choices. That's the bitter truth most men can't accept. They wait for the version of her that doesn't exist, while the version in front of them drains them dry. Every day they cling to fantasy as another day they lose for good. Compatibility has nothing to do with what she might become. It has everything to do with what she can give you now. Because you're not dating her future healed self. You're dating the version in front of you today. And if that version cannot meet your needs, then nothing else matters. This is why the obsession with understanding is so poisonous. It tricks men into confusing explanation with transformation. Knowing why she avoids intimacy doesn't make her capable of intimacy. Understanding why she fears commitment doesn't make her commit. Knowledge does not fix character. Only choice does. So the real question isn't whether you can understand her, it's whether she even wants to change. And that truth becomes undeniable when you see how her past is weaponized as a shield, turning your own empathy into a cage. When men finally begin to question her patterns, another weapon appears: empathy. She knows exactly when to reveal the wounds. A tragic childhood story, a brutal breakup, a betrayal from years ago. Suddenly, every demand for accountability feels cruel. Every attempt at setting boundaries feels like punishment. Her past becomes a shield that protects her present behavior. Most men fall for it instantly. They've been trained to see sensitivity as virtue, to believe compassion equals strength. But here's the truth. Empathy without boundaries isn't strength, it's submission. And women who have no intention of changing know precisely how to pull that lever. Not healing, but hiding. Not progress, but protection. That's what these confessions really are. They're tactics to silence your frustration, to reset the clock on accountability. Her wounds take the spotlight, while your needs are shoved backstage. Her healing journey suddenly matters more than your sanity, your peace, your satisfaction. And the cruel irony, the better a man is, the easier he is to trap. The supportive man, the patient man, the man proud of his emotional intelligence. All his virtues are flipped into weaknesses. His care becomes compliance. His empathy becomes captivity. His masculinity is weaponized against him, turning him into the caretaker of dysfunction he never agreed to manage. This cycle doesn't just waste years. It rewires men to believe that exploitation is love. They start to think that suffering for her healing is what makes them valuable. But what nobody tells them is the opposite. The more dysfunction they tolerate, the less they're respected. Tolerance doesn't win admiration, it breeds contempt. So if empathy can be twisted into a cage, what happens when men themselves start weaponizing psychology against their own sanity? That's the next trap, and it convinces men they're making progress while they're really just digging a deeper grave. Once empathy has been twisted into a cage, most men make the same fatal mistake. They double down. They think the answer is to study harder, to decode every angle of her psychology. They bury themselves in books about attachment styles, forums on trauma responses, endless videos about personality disorders. They don't even notice when the relationship stops being intimate and starts feeling like a clinic. They've become her unpaid therapist, lost in diagnostic obsession. At first, it feels empowering. Each new label, each new framework, feels like progress. Men convince themselves, now I understand her. Now I'm closer to fixing this. But this is the most seductive illusion of all. Because understanding is not the same as change. Knowing the name of her storm doesn't make the rain stop. Naming the fire doesn't make the flames burn cooler. Not progress, but paralysis. Not discovery, but distraction. That's the real product of diagnostic obsession. Men confuse activity with advancement. They think they're moving forward, but they're just running in circles inside a cage of their own making. And in that loop, the years slip away unnoticed. The darker reality is this: the more a man studies her dysfunction, the more entangled he becomes in it. Every new insight is another chain, binding him to a relationship that is already failing. Instead of asking the only question that matters, can she meet my needs right now? He wastes his energy tracing the reasons why she doesn't. And here's the part that cuts the deepest. Men pour their intelligence, their discipline, and their hunger for answers into women who don't even want to be solved. They sacrifice their strength in service of someone else's stagnation. And by the time they wake up, they've become experts in dysfunction while remaining amateurs in self-protection. So if knowledge isn't the cure, and empathy only deepens the prison, then what's the real way out? The final truth doesn't just break the cycle, It exposes the entire system for what it really is. The final truth is brutal. What men call romance is not love. It's a rigged system, a structure designed to drain their time, energy, and future, while rewarding dysfunction with endless patience and free therapy. Society dresses it up as compassion, but in reality, it's exploitation. Understanding doesn't fix her. It just keeps you obedient inside a game built to consume you. Most men think love means sacrifice, but under this system, love means extraction, not devotion, but depletion, not partnership, but servitude. The longer a man stays trapped in empathy, therapy talk, and savior fantasies, the more he forgets the one principle that should guide every relationship: value must be mutual, or it's theft. The way out is not more patience. It's not more empathy. The way out is ruthless selectivity. The man who wins is the man who filters. He doesn't waste years trying to build compatibility out of chaos. He doesn't hire unqualified candidates out of pity. He sets standards. He enforces boundaries. He understands that his role is not to heal, but to choose. And here's the hard truth: most men never hear the women worth having don't need saving. They've already done the work. They show up ready. They respect boundaries because they respect themselves. They don't sell their pain as currency. They bring stability, not storms. And that is exactly why they are rare, because scarcity creates value. So the choice is clear. You can stay trapped in the scam, bleeding yourself dry while waiting for potential that never arrives. Or you can step out, reject the role of therapist, and claim the only leverage you ever had the power to walk away. Because compatibility is not created, it's discovered. And the sooner men stop chasing broken promises, the sooner they stop being prey in a system designed to feed on them. If this hit hard, drop A in the comments and send this to a man still trying to understand chaos.